Welcome to Herzing University Online. This course is titled Color Theory in Design. The course number is GA201. The following presentation will cover Week 4 and is titled Creating Harmony Part 1. Introduction. Creating harmonious design is a skill that takes time to develop. An effective color palette is a balance between formal aesthetic principles and the communicative objectives of the project. It is important to remember that choosing color is a subjective process. What appeals to one person may not appeal to another. While there are no right or wrong color combinations, a good designer will develop a sense of what colors are more effective. By considering such varied factors as psychology, economics, physics, and usage, a designer can select colors for maximum visual impact. This unit will focus on key concepts to consider when creating harmonious color palettes, most notably context, proximity, and environment. Part 1. Choosing a palette. While choosing color is a subjective process, a designer can refer to the organizing principles of all design: balance, variety, proportion, dominance, movement, rhythm, and repetition. Using these principles like a checklist will help determine if a color combination is as effective as it could be. If a particular combination has addressed each of these principles, chances are it will have the desired visual resonance to the viewer. Oftentimes, a designer's personal preferences will play only a small part in the selection of a color palette. In many cases, a client's needs and objectives will supersede the designer's first choices. After much practice, a designer will be able to reconcile such circumstantial factors and strike a necessary balance. When choosing a color scheme, one should seek combinations that engage the viewer and provide a balanced visual experience. Eight rules for building a color palette. The following steps are based on the research of Professor Hideki Shiju. Step 1. Figure out the purpose. Review the project objectives and determine a communicative direction. Step 2. Review color basics. Be mindful of basics such as hue, saturation, and intensity. Step 3. Choose a dominant color, then accent colors. Decide on a color to be used most prominently, perhaps a client's corporate color, then select accents such as analogous or complementary colors. Step 4. Select shades, then vary them. Decide on the feeling of the message, bright and cheery or more subdued. Varying shades can manipulate the emotional tone of a project. Step 5. Look at compatibility of hues. Once your colors have been selected, evaluate their combined effects. Is there adequate contrast? Step 6. Limit the number of colors. In many cases, fewer colors have a more concise impact. 2 or 3 colors are often enough. Using 4 or 5 runs the risk of disrupting the overall unity of the project. Step 7. Put the colors into action. Try several compositions using the selected color palette. Review your results and determine if further refinement is required. Step 8. Keep a logbook. Document your process for reference at a later time. The images in the following slides illustrate color harmony charts that include monochromatic, analogous, triadic, and complementary palettes. Part 2. Context, Proximity, and Environment. Color is always seen in context of its surroundings. A color's usage can change dramatically when applied in slightly different ways. For example, complementary colors make each other appear brighter, yet the sum total effect on the brain is a balanced neutral gray. A color set against a black background will appear more brilliant than the same color against a white background. Colors can be said to advance or recede depending on their proximity and placement within a composition. Warm colors appear to come forward within an image, while cool colors recede. In some cases, a color's interpretation is affected by its proximity to another color. Certain color combinations amplify each other, most notably complementary colors. Using proximity strategically is a device designers use to influence the perception of a color. Optical color mixing, also known as simultaneous contrast, is another facet of color contextualization. This phenomenon is a perception that results from the combination of adjacent colors. The human brain mixes colors that are next to each other and may perceive colors that are not really present. Observe this in the following image. Each column in this image contains the same hue placed on different backgrounds. Notice how differently they appear. A hue's position on the color wheel can affect its perception as well. As we already know, complementary colors provide maximum visual contrast to each other, whereas analogous colors create a more subtle appearance. Here we see another example of how differently a color can appear when placed in different combinations with other colors. Notice how differently the squares in the center appear. The space a color is presented in, its environment, is also something to consider. For example, a designer of retail packaging may choose a color scheme opposite that of a competitor's in order to stand out. However, the overall scheme should remain true to the nature of the product so that its perception remains in context. Summary. As we've seen, many factors contribute to creating a harmonious color palette. Above all, creating a harmonious palette is about evoking a desired emotional or aesthetic response from a viewer. Designers should refer to the organizing principles of balance, variety, proportion, dominance, movement, rhythm, and repetition when choosing a color palette. Many factors can affect a viewer's perception of a color palette, including context, proximity, and environment. End of week 4.